Hey, come closer. Do you like winning? Do you like winning so much that when your faction is deployed, the battle is already recorded as a win by the administratum before it even starts? Do you enjoy the idea of having armor and vehicles covered in a metric ton of gold? And do you want just one of your pieces of gear to cost the exact same as a goddamn planet? Yes? Well, then the Golden Boys of the Adeptus Custodes might be the army for you. The Adeptus Custodes are 8-foot tall golden demigods, each a one-man army in their own right. They are honestly like an entire faction of maxed out video game characters. And let me tell you, they are ridiculous. They have the best training, the best equipment, plus they are virtually immortal. But for how great they are, they have spent the last 10,000 years since the Horus Heresy doing absolutely nothing. Well, not literally nothing, but they have definitely not been participating in the larger overall fight. Now in the 41st and 42nd millennium, the God Emperor's 10,000 Golden Boys are out and about once again. So today, let's take a dive into the Adeptus Custodes, 40K's overpowered immortal guardians. And the Sisters of Silence. We can't forget about those bolter mummies. Welcome to my brand spanking new, scientifically proven and definitely unbiased faction review series. In this series we will cover the plethora of races and factions that inhabit the Warhammer 40K setting with a fun little twist. It is my goal to review and hopefully educate you guys about everything you need to know about these magnificent bastards. I am a lore 40k YouTuber first and foremost, but with the recent drop of 10th edition for the tabletop wargame, I think it's only fair to talk at least a little bit about them on the tabletop as well. Whether you're trying to figure out which army to choose for your next project, what faction to delve your bookworm teeth and mind into, or if you're just generally interested in finding out what this faction is all about, then come along with me to discover today's topic. Who or what are the Adeptus Custodes, and if you maybe really like them, are they the army for you? The Custodes are a legion of warriors praised and sung around the Imperium. They are a golden host of handcrafted super soldiers that are each capable of taking down even the most terrifying of enemy warlords. They are the protectors of the Emperor of Mankind himself, serve as his royal guard, work as keepers of the Imperial Palace, and excel as missionaries to important enough Imperial commanders. They act not only as advisors, but they are also quite capable of being a secret weapon that can be deployed on just a moment's notice. They are the Emperor's eyes, ears, and even his pillar of reasoning for random musings and probably deciding the overall fate of humanity. The Golden Boys of the Custodes stride into the battlefield as small shield companies, boasting only a couple dozens of warriors at most, but their sheer presence alone can fully turn the tide of a full war zone. The Custodes' nature is that of a ruthless yet effective warrior, a lion on the battlefield that takes pride in their duty, and their loyalty stands unfaltering in the face of any and all threats. To reinforce their already insane skills and durability, the Custodes fall under what we call the Talons of the Emperor. Within these Talons, there is another faction known as the Sisters of Silence. The Sisters of Silence are made from Imperial citizens that possess a very rare genetic mutation, called having no soul. The soulless pariahs, or also known as blanks, have the incredible skill to completely shut off any use of warp magic within their soul-sucking AoE effect. A 1000-son psyker throwing physical fireballs while screaming something along the lines of "Die Imperial Dog." The Sisters of Silence have decided it's not actually real, and poof, it's gone, just like that. They work in perfect tandem with the Custodes, the brute golden warriors slaughtering any and all that stand in their way, while the sisters deploy more covert tactics to flank and annihilate any possible threat that might give the Custodes even a second of slight inconvenience. They are the perfect fighting force, two edges of one blade, ready at all times to strike down any foe and face any threat the galaxy might be able to throw at them. Now, Imperial propaganda aside, where do these guys and girls originally come from? The Custodes originally appeared during the start of the unification of Terra, around 12,000 years ago. Old Night had befallen humanity, and its many worlds were cut off from each other. Terrible warp storms raged for thousands of years, which made inter-system travel and communication nearly impossible. The Imperium as we know it today was non-existent, and the Emperor decided that was simply unacceptable. So to help him in his quest to reunite humanity and bring the glory of the Imperial Hammer all across the galaxy, the Emperor set to work creating a whole range of biologically engineered superhumans. Through trial and error, the Emperor and his dream team of genetic engineers managed to create 2 new superhuman subspecies. And it's funny how much of a flip side of a coin it is. On one side, you have the absolutely perfect Custodes. Incredibly hard to produce, but perfect in every sense of the word. On the other side, the Emperor needed mass-produced shock troops to punch the evil techno-barbarians for holding Terra in an iron grasp. So, he created the Thunder Warriors. I know this is a Custodes video, but let me just quickly talk about these guys. The Thunder Warriors can only be described as brutish monsters. They were loyal techno-barbarians who had their mind and body altered to become berserker gigachads, capable of facing just about anyone on Terra. They had no real control, quickly expired, and had the tendency to explode into a gory ball of blood and guts if they got a little too rowdy. Plus, they looked way too cool. Towards the end of the Unification War, the Emperor had completed, and whoopsie daisy lost, his Primarch project. But luckily for him, he had produced his first legion of Adeptus Astartes, which were a better, more sophisticated version of the Thunder Warriors. The Emperor commanded his Custodes to wipe out the Thunder Warriors, and as some of them escaped, pulled out his Dark Angels Legion for the very first time to wipe them from the existence of this universe. The Custodes were originally handcrafted by the Emperor himself, being transformed at an infant stage into something so much more than just human. Now in the 40k setting, it's unclear how they are still produced, but there are theories out there that the 10,000 Golden Warriors might just be a facade, and that there are many more of these banana boys, I'm not sorry, out there than we think there are. Origins explained. Now, let's get to the fun stuff of this video. What do the Custodes, and Sisters of Silence, do? If they cost so much, take so much time and energy to make, what is their glorious purpose? The talents of the Emperor have a lot of tasks, but you probably have already guessed their most important one. Yeah, they're the Custodians. The Custodes act as the Emperor's personal bodyguard. 300 of them, known as the Companions, stand within the throne room at all times to guard, protect, and survey every atom that passes through this palace. They are not allowed to rest, do not eat or drink, and probably don't even blink for as long as they're within the ranks of the Companions. If for even a singular millisecond, one of the Custodes feel like he may have degraded to 99.9% of his full potential, he will rotate out and be given a chance to rest and meditate. Their duty is long and intense, yet it is the most important thing an Imperial servant could do. The Emperor of Mankind is humanity's only and last hope, so to protect his physical body is a task that requires only the utmost perfection. A large percentage of the Custodes also act as guards for the Shadowkeeper shield host. These warriors stand within the dark vault underneath the Emperor's palace, patrolling the endless corridors, holding some of the most terrifying beings and objects known to this setting. For your context, imagine a highly compressed, country-sized SCP Foundation site, right underneath the warp storm that is the Astronomicon. It is said that if a normal human would only spend 1 minute within these cursed halls, their soul would shriek and their brain would literally melt out of their ears. Yet, these Shadowkeepers can stay down here for years upon a time. But even though the Shadowkeepers try as hard as they can, they are not machines, and within a couple of decades, most of them will be switched out. Some of the books talk about the Custodes that have just gotten out, and they will be a dark reflection of the bright star that originally went down there. They no longer trust those around them, have heightened aggression, and sport dark circles underneath their eyes. For what is down there, no price is big enough to pay, because if even one of those things manages to break out, it would most likely change the 40k setting forever. Besides guarding, the Custodes also train. They train a lot. You didn't think the Custodes only stood there to be pretty, did ya? This training takes many forms, from full-scale massive assaults held in the Hallucinarum underneath the palace, to the infamous blood games, in which the Custodes will be placed outside of the Emperor's palace and try to break in to potentially kill the Emperor. Besides heightening their senses and training them for any possible threat, this also has the side benefit of finding weaknesses in the palace's defenses, without the risk of actually killing the Emperor. No matter how hard the Custodes tries, there is no way in hell he would actually murder his liege. The Custodes are ready at all times. They stand guard and prepare for every assault imaginable. A speck rolling throughout the wind that moves a bit weird, a Custodes has seen it. A rat scuttling around a corner, a Custodes will exactly know where it came from and probably how it got in too. But besides being warriors, the Custodes also cover a range of other quite important roles. They act as emissaries, consultants, politicians, artists, sculptors, and have just about mastered any skill you can physically imagine. These guys have a PhD in just about every science and every craft known to the Warhammer 40K setting. The Custodes are so smart in fact, that the Emperor occasionally spoke to them as friends, equals even. He shared many of his darkest secrets, but probably also his brightest musings, and on one occasion must have at least cracked a joke or two. So what sets these guys and gals apart? Besides the metric ton of gold required for every single one of their suits, the Custodes and Sisters of Silence have some amazing defining features. To compare a Custodes to a Space Marine, it's like comparing a Space Marine to a Guardsman. Instead of being a mass-produced war machine, the Custodes are lovingly handcrafted tools of perfection. They are lone lions, each fighting off hordes of small prey as a one-man army. A singular candle burning bright enough to illuminate an entire system. The Sisters of Silence are also quite special. Besides being an amazing addition to the talon of the Emperor's shield host, these bolter mummies also have the grimdark task of collecting untrained psykers from the depth of every hive city, catching them, caging them up in anti-war prisons, and then transporting them back to Terra. Here, the Sisters of Silence will escort them to the Imperial Palace, where they will be subsequently psychically fed into both the Emperor and the Astronomicon. It's important to understand, both the Talons are not actually an army, but a set of specialized individuals, each doing their respective tasks to absolute perfection. Now onto the actual review part of this video. Lore positives. Like the intro may have alluded to, if you like winning, these are the guys for you. The Custodes are the perfect golden warriors of the Imperium, unfaltering and unwavering in their duties. They are perfect for those who enjoy a more regal elite army. You want your main character to be Mr. Good with great intentions and stunning looks to boot? Then you can pick up any of your cooler looking Custodes and simply slap a badass name on him. Is being lawful good a tad too boring for you? Make a story about how your Custodes captain almost managed to reach the Emperor during the Blood Games. Or maybe feels really bad that he let Big E get hurt so bad a while ago. The Custodes allow you to make an army comprised of perfect individuals, yet also have some negative emotions burrowing into the back of their minds. Add the taste and you can make some really cool stuff. If you want to make a sister-only army, it might get a bit hard though. You will lack most of the important units you would need to have a good fight. Like these bolter dummy mummies are tough, but not that tough. They are more comparable to Space Marines than sisters, but you will definitely feel the distinct lack of punch to your units. Fighting a fluffy battle against a Thousand Sons player would be a blast though. For you. The best way to run your army and write your lore is to combine the two. Remove and add to taste, and your project will stay interesting at the very least. This sentiment also carries over to the tabletop. You don't have many models to choose from, so it's fun to add some sisters to expand your miniature range. The Custodes are also incredibly easy to paint. Do you have gold paint? There you go, you have a finished Custodes army. To sweeten the deal even more, Custodes armies also hit like an absolute brick on the tabletop. Any fodder unit that gets near even a single Custodes is gonna get absolutely mauled. You can challenge and fight with an army of what is essentially only characters. Plus, you have some neat units to pick from. Are normal Custodes not chunky enough for you? Add a big slab of Aramite on the front. Not enough thickness? Swap that unit out for a squad of Alaris to really give your opponent the finger. Maybe you need a fast moving unit that hits like a nuclear bomb, slap on some Virtus Praetors, and you've got yourself a quite well-rounded force. Also, if by chance you have any spare rhinos or land raiders laying around from a past failed project, not speaking from experience of course, you can use them in a Custodes army too. Put on that beautiful Flappy Bird banner and you have yourself a worthy steed for your shield captain. The last thing I would like to mention for the positives of the Custodes is their special rules. Their stat lines are outright insane, but they have this very neat little special rule that allows them to take a battle stance in every round, including your opponent's round. It's a great way to balance out any mistakes you have made, plus it's quite hilarious seeing the happiness and excitement fade from your opponent's eyes as you completely demolish their massive possessed blob. Custodes can also be used in both 40K and the Horus Heresy board game, so you get two gaming systems for the price of one. Now, for the negatives. If you hate it when your characters and faction are the perfect good boys of the setting, Why are you even watching this video? The Custodes kinda suffer from the Mary Sue syndrome, meaning they are just a little too good at times. Yes, propaganda has their back and all that, but seeing someone succeed over and over again gets quite boring over time. The Custodes are also not the poster boys of 40K. They are definitely incredibly important to Games Workshop and get a bit more love than they might deserve, but they will always be a step behind the Space Marines. A lot of the miniature complaints I have boil down to the severe lack of originality between the models. A big guy in armor, a big guy in armor on a jet bike, a bigger guy in armor, a big guy in armor inside a larger armor. It's all just really large men inside large suits of armor. Hey, I ain't complaining about large oily men, but we could have done with a little bit more diversity. Their Blade Champion is a great sidestep, and I would have loved to see more of that in some of their longer ranged units instead. Speaking of long range units, did you know half your army is behind a resin paywall? If you want to actually complete your army, you know, like adding things like floaty tanks or jump pack units, you will have to go down the Forge World route. If you don't own a 3D printer or have some international friends, good luck not selling your kidney for a decent collection of these boys. Besides that, honestly, I don't have much else to say about them in a negative sense. I may have been blinded by major kills screaming over them, but I'd say GW really did quite a good job on them. I think that's also a good moment to introduce my amazing segue to the next section: community reception. I'm gonna be real with you here. If you pull up to your local gaming store with a Custodes army, at least half of the people there are going to roll their eyes at you. Maybe in 10th edition this has been slightly fixed, but the Custodes are kind of overpowered. Sure, if you bring your Sisters of Silence, you played smart and will shut down any Psyker with the right positioning and perfectly timed ambush. But your average guy is a character. Any Horde army might try to win through objectives, but that won't matter when they're all neatly stacked up as dripping sliced meat cubes. You won't have much of an issue fighting most armies. You either win through sheer aggression and overwhelming pressure, or just by playing, hey, let me sit on this objective and simply never move. What are you gonna do? Charge me? The only player in that store who might be really excited to play against you is the local knight player, but that's only because nobody else wanted to play his asshole faction first. Your guys are tough, but they are not 50 tons of metal and steel tough. On the internet, you will mainly see Custodes fans trying to defend their superiority, and any and all other players just wishing their main character could even get close enough to kill one of their normal troops. I guess if you do need a good reason to play these guys, Henry Cavill plays them too, so you have at least that going for you. As a side note, I think this is also a great time to make sure you guys remember that I do voice opinions and personal views in this video. Yes, I know it says unbiased review on the front, but did you really think a smiling Angron profile picture was going to stay unbiased? I am not always correct, and if you disagree with anything I have said in this video so far, please leave a comment down below to explain to me in exact terminology how I was wrong at whatever time frame, because I'm a moron and don't know anything about 40K. I will gladly cry myself to sleep tonight. Anyway, continuing with the script. Here are 5 cool facts and things about the Custodes you should probably know about. Number 1. Constantine Valdor, the first of the 10,000, was the best Custodes to have ever been created. He once 1v1'd Alfarius while the Primarch was infiltrating the Imperial Palace, and it was a very close fight, having Alfarius on his knees trying to explain himself. Number 2. Custodes get a new name when they are inducted into the Adeptus Custodes. For every heroic deed, battle, or action, the Custodes gains a new name. Some say there are Custodes out there that have multiple inches of bone covered in microscopic names laser etched in. Imagine writing a letter to one of them and needing 6 pages just to spell out his name. Number 3. Custodes don't really trust the Adeptus Astartes. I wonder why that could be.
Then let the galaxy burn.
Number 4. Not a single golden boy has ever fallen to corruption. Ignoring the Siege of Terra book, because fuck that shit. Unlike Marines and even Inquisitors, these guys can really not be swayed. And lastly, number 5. A lot of their names are Greek inspired. Achilles, Constantine and Castor to name a few. Also Horus apparently. It's a fun little fact that I didn't know before researching this video. Musings, lore, miniatures and opinions aside, let's look back on the main question of this video. Who or what are the Adeptus Custodes? And if you maybe really like them, are they the army for you? You now should have a pretty good understanding of who these golden boys are, what they do and what they are created for. If you like a royal army, elite and nigh unstoppable, and pretty good for the wallet, then the Custodes and their Sisters of Silence might be the army for you. But as always, I will leave that conclusion up to you guys. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about these golden boys and gals? Thank you all for watching, more definitely unbiased reviews coming every week. If you want to check out more of my 40k lore, click right here on the screen. I can promise you it'll be worth a watch. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.